Can you just talk us through the court action you're going through at the moment and how much people believe they're owed?
Well, essentially what we're saying is Flight Centre has a really dubious pay structure. It means that people are getting paid under the Modern Retail Award, which is the award that they've got to comply with. And we've brought this claim in the name of the union, the Together Union, on behalf of 5 employees who we say are owed about $250,000.
The argument from Flight Centre is they have top-up payments, so even people who are paid under the so-called minimum wage with the commissions, they still get it in the end. I mean, do you dispute that? It's a bit of a he said, she said scenario.
No, we dispute it, and it's not he said, she said in the sense of we accept that there are some commissions and top-ups, but the point is this is a pay structure where on your salary you earn less than the award. Then there are these at-risk payments that you may never meet, only if you get sales or you get there, that might mean that you get up to the basic safety net, the award level. You can't offset commissions against what you're entitled to under an award. And with the top-ups, they're random, inconsistent payments, and there's no rationale, and we don't understand when they're paid and whether you actually get up to the award level anyway. So we don't think that the argument from Flight Centre stacks up.
How many people do you think are actually impacted?
I would say many people are impacted. These are 5 brave individuals that have stood up, and they're very lucky to have the backing of a union, and without that I don't think they could have come forward at all. But I think that there would be many more that are basically being paid under the same type of pay structure.
We'll hopefully speak to one client, but broadly among those 5 people, what impact has that had on their lives not being paid in an adequate way?
It's made their lives incredibly stressful. It makes it very hard to make ends meet. It means that they have to take out loans, borrow money from family, from partners. They can't get mortgages. They're under enormous pressure to make sales, because if they don't make the sale, they don't even get to the safety net minimum, and that puts an enormous amount of pressure on their lives.
What time period are we talking about? Obviously there's past payments, but how long has this been going on in your mind?
Well, it's been going on for longer than we can even claim for. The law says you can't go back further than 6 years, and for some of these employees they've been there for much longer than that, up to 13 years. And so we can only make the claim for the last 6 years because that's the maximum we can do.
Am I right that Flight Centre has since changed its payment system so that this probably won't happen in the future?
It's not clear what they're doing. They may have changed the structure to some degree, and they have tried to make a collective agreement, but that hasn't been approved. And so we have made claims right up until essentially when we've lodged today. So I can't speak for Flight Centre in the sense of what changes they've made.
I know you said it's likely many more, but are we talking hundreds, thousands, or difficult to say?
It's difficult to say. I mean, they're a very big employer, and they employ nationally, and this is an award that is a national award. So we'd cover Flight Centre employees from Queensland to Western Australia, all across the country. So that I would imagine it would be many.
Flight Centre is one of the largest employers in Queensland and Australia, and what we've seen is a systematic and calculated approach to labour theft over a number of years. We are seeing hundreds, if not thousands, of Flight Centre employees being ripped off by their employer as they undertake a very calculated and a very determined process to try and undercut the award. We know the system is broken. We know that there are large employers seeking to underpay the award. And what Flight Centre have attempted to do is use the commission process to drive down wages in a way that would actually mean that on a number of occasions each year, employees are getting paid less than the award. It's unfortunate we've been forced into a process of having to pursue this through the courts, but at the end of the day, Australia needs a pay rise. Australian workers are doing it tough, and we will leave no stone unturned to make sure that Flight Centre workers are paid appropriately. Clearly at the moment, the system being used is inappropriate. Clearly at the moment, large numbers of employees, hundreds if not thousands of workers, are being directly affected by a process being undertaken by Flight Centre to avoid their award entitlements. This is clearly unacceptable. We have sought to address it through collective bargaining, and now we're having to force the employer through the court system to pay fair and reasonable wages that they should have been paying in the first place.
Why do you argue that these top-up payments aren't adequate? Because Flight Centre's argument has been, and probably will be off the back of this presser, that it does take them to that minimum wage if they don't reach it with commissions. I mean, why is it not adequate?
All we've seen is if you average it out over the year, that clearly the employer is seeking to take those top-up payments back in relation to the commission. It's a false and misleading way that they've been playing their employees, and that if they fail to reach the commission in one pay cycle and then reach this pay cycle after, the commission isn't paid in full. So in terms of the process, what we know through the evidence provided by these 5 individual members, but also from the fact that we are looking at hundreds, if not thousands, of other workers joining this action, that the system being used by Flight Centre is calculated, it's well designed, but at the end of the day, it's labour theft to try and pay less than the award. Flight Centre refused to accept that, we know that, and that's why we're having to take this through the courts, because we know that the Flight Centre has sought to collectively bargain to avoid this problem, but now what they need to take responsibility for the underpayment of thousands of workers for the last 6 years. If the system wasn't broken, it could have been fixed more simply, but at the moment, the only way that we can deliver a fair and reasonable pay rise for these workers is pursuing them through the courts to show what they've been doing and why they've been avoiding the award. We're confident we'll win this case. We need to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure that workers are paid fairly within the award, despite the attempt of big business to come up with smart and innovative ways of paying less than the entitlements for workers.
How big of an impact has this had on those 5 people who are taking this action?
Well, what we know is that Australian workers are doing it tough. Increasing prices are not being matched by wages. Australia needs a pay rise, and Flight Centre workers are no different to that. What we know is that all Australian families are doing it tough with increasing prices which aren't being matched by wages, and these workers who are on the award minimum are clearly struggling like all other families are across Queensland and across Australia, and that's why we think it's so abhorrent that the Flight Centre, which is so profitable, such a large business, won't even pay the absolute minimum under the award that these workers are entitled to, and have been misleading them clearly in terms of the way they've been paying commissions in a way to avoid the fact that they are paying less than the award.
Great.